She said it calmly, right there at the Christmas table, that I was difficult, that I ruined the mood, ruined the family, ruined everything. Everyone went quiet. I didn't argue. I didn't defend myself. I just went to bed early. Then at 2:01 a.m. my phone rang. It was my son. His voice was shaking. And the first thing he said was, "Dad, you were right. Something is very wrong here." That's when I realized Christmas wasn't over. It was just beginning. Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and let us know where you're listening from in the comments below. My name is David Holloway. I'm 64 years old and I live in Madison, Wisconsin. I've been married for 36 years. I raised my son to trust his instincts. That night, he finally did. I've replayed that Christmas dinner in my head more times than I can count. Not because of what was said, but because of what wasn't. The pauses, the glances, the way everyone suddenly became very interested in their plates. My wife sat at the head of the table, hands folded, posture perfect. She looked tired, but composed in that way she always does when she wants to appear reasonable. "David can be difficult," she said with a small, apologetic smile. "Difficult, not cruel, not loud, not abusive, just difficult. As if I were a stubborn appliance that refused to work properly when guests were over." My sister-in-law nodded politely. My niece avoided my eyes. My son stared down at his fork like it had personally offended him. I waited. For anyone to ask why. Why I was difficult. What I'd done, what I'd said, but no one did. And that hurt more than the word itself, because silence is agreement. I took a sip of my wine and tasted nothing. I didn't raise my voice. Didn't slam my hand on the table. I just said, "I think I'll turn in early." My wife didn't stop me. She didn't look surprised either. That should have been my first real warning. Our house was quiet upstairs, too quiet. I changed into pajamas and sat on the edge of the bed, listening to laughter drift faintly up from below. I could hear my wife's voice, lighter now, warmer. The voice she hadn't used with me all evening. I lay back and stared at the ceiling. 36 years of marriage doesn't fall apart all at once. It frays, slowly, silently. You stop asking questions because you're afraid of the answers. You stop pushing because you don't want to be difficult. I closed my eyes and told myself I was overthinking, that I always did this, that this was just another holiday with too much wine and too many expectations. I must have drifted off, because the next thing I remember was the vibration of my phone on the nightstand. 2:01 a.m. I squinted at the screen, my son's name, Ethan. My heart rate jumped instantly. Parents don't stop worrying just because their kids grow up, especially not when they call at that hour. "Ethan," I whispered, keeping my voice low. He didn't answer right away. All I could hear was breathing, fast, uneven. "Dad," he finally said, and something in his tone made my stomach drop. "I'm sorry for earlier. That wasn't why he called." "You don't have to apologize," I said. "What's wrong?" Another pause, then, "Can you come downstairs?" I glanced at the bedroom door. My wife hadn't come up yet. "What happened?" I asked. "I can't explain over the phone," he said. "Just please come now." I pulled on a sweater and stepped into the hallway. The lights downstairs were dim. Most of the guests had gone. Only the tree lights were on, casting soft shadows across the living room. Ethan stood near the kitchen doorway, arms crossed tight over his chest. He looked pale, older than he had earlier that night. "What's going on?" I asked quietly. He glanced toward the dining room, then toward the closed back door. "She told me something," he said. "Who?" I asked, even though I already knew. He swallowed. "Mom," my chest tightened. "And," I prompted. He ran a hand through his hair. "She said you've been suspicious lately." The word landed like a slap. "Suspicious how?" He hesitated. "She said you've been asking questions about money, about her schedule, about why she's been gone so much." I felt a cold settle into my bones. "Have I?" I asked. He looked at me, really looked this time. "Yes," he said, "but I thought that was normal." "So did I," I replied. Ethan lowered his voice. "She told me you're paranoid, that you imagine problems where there aren't any." My jaw tightened. "And you believed her?" I did not believe her, he said carefully, but then something happened. He gestured toward the kitchen. There was a call, her phone rang. She stepped outside to take it. I waited, and she forgot to hang up, he said. The room felt suddenly very still. She didn't realize I was standing near the door, he continued. And I heard her say, his voice faltered. I stepped closer. What did you hear? He met my eyes. She said, he's getting harder to manage. My heart thudded painfully. Who is he? I asked, even though my throat already felt tight. Ethan shook his head. I don't know, but that's not all. He leaned in. She also said Christmas went fine, he bought it. The words echoed in my skull. Bought what? Did she mention my name? I asked. Ethan hesitated, then nodded. She said David went to bed, we're clear for now. I felt something crack inside my chest. Not rage, not grief, betrayal, pure and sharp. Ethan exhaled slowly. That's when I realized, he said, you weren't being difficult. He looked shaken. You were being careful. My phone buzzed again in my hand. A message from my wife. Are you asleep? I stared at the screen. My son watched my face change. Dad, he asked. I didn't answer right away. I typed back, yes. The 3 dots appeared instantly, then disappeared, then appeared again. Finally, a reply, good, 1 word, nothing else. I locked the screen and slipped the phone back into my pocket. Ethan's voice dropped to a whisper. What do we do? I looked around my house, my home of 3 decades, and realized I didn't recognize it anymore. I don't know yet, I said slowly. But I think Christmas wasn't the problem. He nodded. Then what is? I swallowed. I think, I said, whatever she's hiding started long before tonight. And upstairs, from the hallway above us, I heard the bedroom door open, softly, carefully, as if someone was listening. Neither of us moved when we heard footsteps upstairs. They were slow, measured, too deliberate to be casual. Ethan's eyes flicked toward the ceiling. She's awake, he whispered. I know, I said quietly. The footsteps stopped, then started again, moving toward the bathroom. The toilet flushed. The sink ran. Every sound felt staged, like she wanted us to know she was up. I leaned closer to Ethan. Act normal, I murmured. Whatever that means right now. He nodded, but his jaw was tight. We stepped into the living room just as my wife came down the stairs. She smiled, a soft, sleepy smile. The same one she'd worn for years when she wanted to appear harmless. Everything okay? She asked. Yes, Ethan said too quickly. Just talking. She studied us for a beat too long. David, she asked, turning to me. I didn't wake you, did I? No, I replied. I was still awake. Not a lie. She nodded, then yawned slightly. Well, I'm exhausted. I think I'll turn in. She leaned in and kissed my cheek. Her lips were cold, and she smelled different, not perfume, not soap, something sharper, metallic. She walked past us and went upstairs again. Ethan didn't speak until we heard the bedroom door close. What was that smell? He whispered. I don't know, I said, but it wasn't here earlier. We waited 10 minutes, then 15. Then Ethan whispered, I don't think she's sleeping. Neither did I because my phone buzzed again. Unknown number, just 1 word, soon. I didn't show Ethan, not yet. We moved to the kitchen and spoke in hushed tones. She's been leaving town twice a month, Ethan said. She told me it was for work. She told me the same, I replied, but she never said where. Ethan hesitated. I checked her car earlier, he admitted. I know it sounds wrong, but what did you find? I asked. Nothing obvious, he said, but the trunk was empty. Too empty, my stomach tightened. Empty trunks don't bother you unless you expect something to be there. She's also been paying off the credit card in cash, he added. Large amounts. That made my breath catch. My wife hated cash. Always had. Did you see where the money came from? I asked. No, Ethan said, but I know where it's going. He pulled out his phone and showed me a screenshot. A transaction alert. $4,800 cash deposit, local branch, dated 2 days ago. That's not her salary, I said quietly. No, Ethan agreed. And that's when I started paying attention. I rubbed my temples. How long have you suspected something? I asked. Tonight, he said honestly. When she called you difficult, I almost laughed. The smallest word can be the loudest tell. Another message buzzed on my phone, same unknown number. Don't involve him. My pulse spiked. She was watching us, or someone else was. I looked toward the back door instinctively. The blinds hadn't moved, but I felt exposed. Like we were on a stage and didn't know where the audience was sitting. "Dad," Ethan said. "You okay?" I nodded. "Just tired. A lie this time." I decided to test something. "I'm going to bed," I said. "For real this time." Ethan frowned. "Now, yes," I said quietly. "And I want you to stay here, pretend nothing's changed." He hesitated. "Why?" "Because if I'm right," I said, "someone is expecting me upstairs." I squeezed his shoulder. "If anything happens, don't confront her, just leave. Call the police." "Dad, I mean it." Reluctantly, he nodded. Upstairs, the bedroom was dark. My wife lay on her side, back to me. Her breathing sounded steady, too steady. I slid into bed slowly, didn't touch her, didn't close my eyes. Minutes passed. Then she spoke, without turning. "You and Ethan were whispering," she said softly. "Yes," I replied. "About me." I chose my words carefully. "About Christmas," she sighed. "I knew you'd take it personally." I stayed silent. She rolled onto her back, stared at the ceiling. "You've changed," she said. "You don't trust me anymore." My heart thudded. "Why would you think that?" I asked. She turned her head toward me. Her eyes were open, wide, alert. "Because you've been watching," she said, "asking questions. Counting days." I swallowed. "And that makes me difficult," she smiled faintly. "No," she said, "it makes you inconvenient." There it was. The truth slipped out before she could stop it. I kept my voice steady. "Inconvenient to what?" She didn't answer. Instead, she reached for her phone, typed something, then set it down. I heard a faint vibration, not hers, mine. A message appeared on my screen. "Tomorrow." I stared at it. She turned off the bedside lamp. Darkness swallowed the room. Her voice came softly from beside me. "You should try to sleep," she said. "Tomorrow is going to be busy." I lay there, heart pounding, listening to her breathing. And in that moment, I understood something terrifying. Whatever she was involved in, it wasn't ending. It was reaching a deadline, and I was in the way. Downstairs, a floorboard creaked. Not Ethan's room. The back hallway, slow, careful, like someone who knew the house well. My wife's breathing didn't change. She was awake, waiting. And that's when my phone buzzed one last time. A photo message, taken from inside my house, of Ethan standing in the kitchen. Caption underneath, "He's closer than you think." I didn't move, didn't breathe, didn't blink. I stared at the photo on my phone until my eyes burned. Ethan in the kitchen. The angle slightly tilted, taken from the hallway, recent, very recent. Which meant whoever sent it was still inside my house. My wife shifted beside me, just slightly, enough to let me know she was awake, waiting to see what I'd do. I locked my phone and slid it face down on the nightstand. She spoke softly, almost kindly. "You always did overthink things," she said. My jaw tightened. "There's someone downstairs," I replied quietly. She didn't deny it. Instead, she turned her head toward me. Her eyes reflected the faint glow of the streetlight. "There doesn't have to be a problem," she said. "Unless you make one." I sat up slowly. "Ethan's involved now," I said. "That wasn't part of whatever game you're playing." Her expression flickered, just for a moment, annoyance. Then it was gone. "He shouldn't have listened," she said. "And you shouldn't have taught him to." Cold washed through me. "You put him in danger," I said. She exhaled. "Danger is relative," she replied. "So is loyalty." I stood. She watched me carefully, like someone tracking an unpredictable animal. "Where are you going?" she asked. "To get my son," I said. She smiled faintly. "I wouldn't." That's when I heard Ethan shout, "Mom!" The sound cracked through the house like breaking glass. My heart leapt into my throat. I rushed to the door. She grabbed my wrist. Hard, stronger than I expected. "You open that door," she said, voice suddenly sharp, "and you'll regret it." I yanked my arm free. "You don't get to threaten me anymore." I threw the door open. The hallway was empty, too empty. No shadows moving. No footsteps retreating, just silence. I ran down the stairs. "Ethan," I called, no answer. The kitchen lights were on, the back door was ajar. Cold air rushed in. Ethan wasn't there, My pulse hammered, I scanned the counters. A chair was knocked over, his phone lay on the floor, the screen was cracked. I picked it up with shaking hands. Another message buzzed, not on my phone, on his, unknown number. He's safe. For now. I felt the floor tilt beneath me. My wife's footsteps echoed behind me. She came to stand in the doorway, arms crossed. "You see," she said calmly, "no need for panic." "Where is he?" I demanded. She tilted her head. "That depends," she said, "on how cooperative you decide to be." I stared at her. At the woman I'd shared a bed with for 36 years. "I don't know who you are anymore," I whispered. She looked almost offended. "That's not fair," she said. "I've been this person for a long time. You just weren't paying attention." I stepped toward her. "If you've heard him," she raised a hand. "He's alive," she said firmly. "I promise that." "Promised who?" She hesitated. "Just a fraction of a second. Enough." "Who?" I pressed. She sighed. "You wouldn't understand," she said. "And honestly, you don't need to." She reached into her pocket and pulled out a folded piece of paper. "Set it on the counter." "Tomorrow morning," she said, "you're going to drive to the old marina, alone." My heart pounded. "And if I don't," her eyes hardened. "Then Ethan doesn't come home." The words were flat, practiced. I clenched my fists. "What do you want from me?" I asked. She looked at me for a long, quiet moment. Then, "I want you to stop asking questions." I laughed bitterly. "That's it, for you?" she said. "Yes." She turned toward the back door. "Go to bed," she added. "Try to get some rest." And then she walked out of the house, just like that. No explanation, no apology, no fear. The door closed behind her. I stood alone in the kitchen, Ethan's broken phone in my hand, the sound of my own heartbeat pounding in my ears. I should have called the police. I know that, but something told me deep in my gut that this wasn't something a 911 call could fix. This was personal, calculated, planned long before tonight. I sat at the table and unfolded the paper she'd left. An address, coordinates, the old marina on the south end of the lake, a place that shut down years ago. I knew it well. Because that's where my wife said she was working late at least a dozen times. I rubbed my face. My hands were shaking. I felt old. Not tired. Old. But one thought cut through everything else. If I didn't go, I'd never see my son again. I didn't sleep. At 5:30 a.m. I showered, dressed, and left the house. The sun hadn't risen yet. The roads were empty, too empty. I drove in silence, replaying every conversation from the last few years, every missed sign, every unexplained trip, every time she said, "Don't worry about it." I pulled into the marina lot at exactly 6:14 a.m. Fog hovered over the water. The old docks creaked softly. A single car was parked near the end, black, engine running. I parked 20 feet away and stepped out. The cold bit through my coat. A figure stood near the edge of the dock. Not my wife. A man, tall, broad, hands in his pockets. He turned when he heard my footsteps and smiled. "David Holloway," he said. "Nice of you to come." My stomach dropped. "I'm here for my son," I said. He nodded. "Of course you are." He stepped closer. "Your wife speaks very highly of you," he added. "Says you're difficult." I clenched my jaw. "What do you want?" I asked. He leaned in slightly. "We want you to disappear," he said softly. "No police, no lawyers, no noise. And if I don't," he smiled wider. "Then this gets messy." I heard footsteps behind me. I turned and saw Ethan, hands zip-tied, face pale, but alive. Relief slammed into me so hard I nearly collapsed. "Dad," he shouted. The man placed a hand on his shoulder. "Careful," he said. "We don't want accidents." My heart raced. "What do I have to do?" I asked. The man looked out over the water. "You're going to sign something," he said. "And then you're going to leave town, forever. And my son," he turned back to me. "That depends," he said, "on how convincing you are." I opened my mouth to respond, and that's when I heard a familiar voice behind me. Calm, controlled, deadly. "Let him go." I turned slowly. My wife stood at the edge of the dock, phone in hand, pointed straight at the man's head. "Or I tell them everything." The man froze, the fog thickened. And for the first time that night, no one knew who was in control anymore. The man's smile vanished the second he saw my wife. Not faded, not softened, erased. He froze mid-step, eyes locked on the phone in her hand like it was a loaded weapon, because it was. "You shouldn't be here," he said calmly, though the tension in his jaw betrayed him. My wife didn't lower the phone. "I told you," she replied evenly, "if he brought our son into this, I'd burn everything." My heart slammed against my ribs. "Our son," I repeated hoarsely. She didn't look at me. "Not now, David." Ethan struggled against the zip ties. "Mom, what is going on?" he demanded. The man tightened his grip on Ethan's shoulder. "Easy," he warned. My wife took one step closer. "Touch him again," she said softly, "and I send the file." The fog thickened around us, curling over the docks like the lake itself was listening. I stared at her. The woman I'd shared a bed with, holidays, loss, 36 years of life, holding a phone that could destroy everyone here. "What file?" I asked. She finally looked at me, and there it was, not guilt, not fear, resolve. "The one you never knew existed," she said. "The one that explains why I've been working late and why certain people stopped dying mysteriously about 15 years ago." The man laughed once, sharp, humorless. "You always had a flair for drama," he said, "but this ends tonight." She shook her head. "No," she replied. "This started tonight." She raised the phone slightly. "I have copies," she said, "in 3 locations. If anything happens to me, everything goes public." The man's eyes flicked briefly toward the water, toward the road, toward the empty marina, calculating. Ethan whispered, "Mom, what did you do?" She inhaled slowly. "I cleaned up a mess," she said. "A mess your father almost got killed for without ever knowing why." My knees felt weak. "What are you talking about?" I asked. She closed her eyes briefly. "David, when you were consulting years ago, you were targeted, you just didn't know it." The man scoffed. "He was insignificant." She snapped her gaze to him. "He wasn't," she said coldly. "He was thorough, and thorough men get noticed." She turned back to me. "After that Christmas you don't remember," she continued, "when those consultants started disappearing, someone came to the house." My blood ran cold. "Someone like him?" I asked. She nodded once. "They wanted to know what you knew. What you kept, who you talked to," I swallowed. "And you?" "I lied," she said. "I told them you destroyed everything." The man interrupted. "She didn't just lie," he said. "She negotiated." My wife didn't deny it. "I made myself useful," she said, "so they'd stop circling you." Ethan shook his head. "You worked with them." "No," she said firmly. "I worked against them. From the inside." The words hit me like a wave. "You became one of them," I whispered. "I became their blind spot," she replied. The man chuckled darkly. "She's telling you the clean version." She didn't react. "For 15 years," she said, "I fed them bad leads, redirected attention, protected families they would have erased." I stared at her. "Why didn't you tell me?" She looked away. "Because you would have tried to stop me," she said, "and they would have killed you." Silence fell over the dock, only the water lapping against the wood. Ethan's voice cracked. "You put me in danger," he said. She turned to him, and for the first time her composure broke, tears welled. "I never meant to," she whispered. "This wasn't supposed to touch you." The man scoffed. "But it did," he said. "And now we need to finish this." He pulled a knife from his jacket, not dramatic, efficient. "Let the boy go," my wife said sharply. "Not until this ends," he replied. I stepped forward. "Take me," I said. "Let him go." Ethan shouted no. The man looked at me with mild interest. "You?" he asked. "You're not the problem." "No," my wife said. "He's the leverage." She raised the phone higher. "I have names," she said. "Accounts, orders, dates." The man's jaw tightened. "You wouldn't." "I already scheduled it," she replied. "If I don't cancel in 10 minutes, it all sends." The fog shifted. Time pressed in on us. The man exhaled slowly. "You've always been inconvenient," he muttered. He shoved Ethan forward. "Untie him," my wife said. Reluctantly, the man cut the zip ties. Ethan stumbled toward me. I caught him, holding him tight, alive, breathing. My wife didn't lower the phone. "Now leave," she said. The man hesitated, then backed away. But before he turned, he looked at her. "This isn't over," he warned. She met his gaze. "It never is," she said. He disappeared into the fog. The 3 of us stood there, shaking. Ethan pulled away first. You lied to us, he said to her. She nodded. Yes, for years, yes. I don't know who you are, he said. Her voice broke. I know. She turned to me. And you, she said softly. I'm sorry. I looked at her. At the woman who'd protected me by becoming something I hated. I don't know how to forgive this, I said. I'm not asking you to, she replied. Just to understand. Sirens wailed faintly in the distance. Someone else had called. Good, bad, I didn't know. What happens now? Ethan asked. She lowered the phone. Now, she said, I disappear. My heart lurched. What? They won't stop, she said, but they won't chase you anymore. I stepped closer. No, I said, we face this together. She smiled sadly. You don't get to make that choice, she said. I already did. She kissed Ethan's forehead, then looked at me one last time. Christmas was never about you being difficult, she said. It was about me running out of time. She turned and walked into the fog, and this time I knew she wasn't coming back. The fog swallowed her faster than I expected. 1 second she was there, standing between me and our son, holding a phone like it weighed nothing. The next, she was gone. Ethan took a step after her. Mom, he called. No answer, just water. Wood creaking, cold air. I grabbed his arm. She's not coming back, I said quietly. He looked at me like a child again. Not the man who'd just been tied up at gunpoint, but the boy who used to wait by the window when she was late coming home. She said she'd disappear, he whispered. She can't just, she can, I said. And she did. Sirens grew louder now, closer. Red and blue lights cut through the fog at the edge of the marina parking lot. Someone had made the call. Not her, not me. Maybe the man. Maybe someone watching from farther away. It didn't matter. What mattered was this. If the police found us here, with Ethan bound only minutes ago, with my wife vanished with no bodies and no proof, the story wouldn't make sense. And when stories don't make sense, someone fills in the blanks, usually with the truth they want. Dad, Ethan said, his voice shaking. What do we tell them? I stared out at the lake, at the place where my marriage ended without a word. We tell them what we can, I said, and nothing more. The officers separated us immediately. Standard procedure, hands visible. Questions calm but sharp. Sir, what's your relationship to the missing woman? My wife, I said. When did you last see her? 5 minutes ago. Where did she go? I don't know. That answer came easier than I expected, because I didn't. Ethan sat on the curb, wrapped in a blanket someone had handed him. A paramedic checked his wrists. I watched from across the lot, helpless. Guilty, relieved, all at once. They took our statements, different officers, same questions. Did we know the man? Had we been threatened before? Was there a history of domestic disputes? I answered carefully, truthfully, but selectively. Because the full truth about organizations' leverage files wouldn't protect us. It would mark us. And I'd had enough of that. Eventually they let us go. No charges, no arrests, just warnings and business cards. Call us if you remember anything else, one officer said. I nodded. I knew I wouldn't. The drive home was silent. Ethan stared out the window. I kept my eyes on the road. The house looked wrong when we returned. Too neat. Too still. As if it didn't know what had just happened inside it, Ethan stopped in the doorway. She was right, he said quietly. About what? You being careful, he replied. You weren't difficult, you were sensing something. I leaned against the wall. I wish I'd trusted that sooner. He turned to me. You trusted her, he said. That's not a flaw. I didn't answer, because trust had nearly gotten us both killed. That night we didn't sleep. We sat at the kitchen table until the sun began to rise. Neither of us touched the coffee. What if she's lying? Ethan asked suddenly. What if she wasn't protecting us? I thought about the phone in her hand, the way the man froze, the way she didn't hesitate. She wasn't lying, I said. How do you know? Because liars improvise, I replied. She was prepared. He nodded slowly. What happens now? He asked. I looked around the kitchen, at the chair she always used, the mug she preferred, the little routines that felt suddenly obscene. Now, I said, we live with what she did for us. 3 days later, the first package arrived. No return address, just my name. Inside was a flash drive and a note. One line, insurance. My hands shook as I held it. I didn't plug it in. Not yet. I wasn't ready to know what she'd really been carrying. That night I dreamed of Christmas again. But this time when she called me difficult, I understood what she meant. I was unpredictable, uncontrollable. I wouldn't go quietly. A week passed. Then two, no calls, no messages. The world moved on, but something had shifted. I noticed it in small ways. A car parked too long down the street. A stranger who glanced away too quickly. The sense of being watched never fully returned, but it never fully left either. Ethan stayed with me. Neither of us said it out loud, but we both knew. Being alone felt dangerous now. One evening, as we were eating dinner, he asked, "Do you miss her?" I thought for a long moment. "I miss who I thought she was," I said, "and I respect who she actually was." He nodded. "Me too." On the 21st day after Christmas, my phone buzzed. A message, unknown number, just coordinates. I stared at them. My heart pounded. Ethan looked up. "What is it?" I showed him. He didn't hesitate. "We're not going," he said. I agreed. For the first time in weeks, I felt certain. "She chose her path," I said, "and now we choose ours." I deleted the message. And for the first time since that night, the house felt quiet again. Not safe, but honest. That night before bed, I opened the drawer where her wedding ring still lay. I picked it up, cold, heavy, and I finally understood. Love doesn't always mean staying. Sometimes it means disappearing so the people you love get to live. I placed the ring back in the drawer, turned off the light, and slept. I didn't think deleting the message would be the end of it. Deep down, I knew better. People who disappear like my wife did don't stop moving. They don't stop planning, and they never stop watching. It was the third night after the coordinates arrived when the power went out. No storm, no warning, just darkness. The house went silent except for the faint hum of the refrigerator winding down. Ethan looked up from the couch. "Dad." "I know," I said. "We didn't move." The streetlights outside were dark too, a neighborhood blackout or something more selective. I reached for my phone, no signal. That's when I heard the knock, not loud. Not urgent, 3 slow taps, measured, polite. The kind of knock that assumes you're going to open the door. Ethan stood. I raised a hand. "Stay back." I grabbed the flashlight from the drawer and approached the door. The knocks came again, same rhythm. I opened it just enough to see the porch. A woman stood there, late 40s, professional coat, hair pulled tight, calm eyes. "I'm sorry to bother you so late," she said. "My name is Laura Keene," not a name I recognized. "I'm looking for your wife." My heart skipped. "She doesn't live here anymore," I said. "I know," she replied. Her gaze slid past me into the house. "May I come in?" "No," I said. She smiled faintly. That wasn't really a request. Before I could respond, 2 men stepped out of the shadows. Not the man from the marina. Different, younger, sharper. My pulse spiked. "What do you want?" I asked. Laura's voice stayed calm. "We want the flash drive." Ethan stepped into view behind me. Her eyes flicked to him, then back to me. "You shouldn't have opened that package," she said. "I didn't," I replied. Her eyebrows rose slightly. "Smart," she said. "But temporary." She stepped closer. "The information your wife collected was never meant to exist in one place," she continued. "She broke an agreement." "What agreement?" Ethan demanded. Laura glanced at him. "The kind you don't walk away from." I felt anger surge. "She protected us," I said. "Yes," Laura replied. "And now we need to know what she gave you." "I don't have anything," I said. She sighed. "That's unfortunate." One of the men behind her spoke quietly into an earpiece. Laura nodded once. "Please understand," she said, "we don't enjoy this part." Then she raised her hand. The lights inside the house flickered back on, every room at once. My stomach dropped. "You turned the power off," I said. She nodded. "To see who'd come running." Ethan's fists clenched. "You kidnapped me," he snapped. "You threatened my father." Laura tilted her head. "And yet," she said calmly, "you're both still breathing." The words chilled me. "What happens if we don't cooperate?" I asked. She met my gaze. "Then you learn what your wife learned much sooner than she hoped." Before I could respond, my phone vibrated. Signal restored. A message, unknown number, just one line, "Don't give them anything." I looked up. Laura saw the change in my expression. She's still watching, she said softly. Of course she is. I clenched my jaw. You won't find her, I said. She smiled. We don't need to, she replied. We just need to erase what she left behind. One of the men stepped forward. May we come in now? He asked. I stepped aside because refusing wasn't courage anymore. It was suicide. They searched the house efficiently, too efficiently. Drawers, closets, the garage. Laura stayed with us in the living room. You loved her, she said casually. Yes, I replied. That makes this harder, she said. People like her are dangerous because they blur lines. What line did she blur? Ethan asked. Laura paused. The one between observer and participant, she said. She stopped collecting information and started shaping outcomes. My stomach tightened. She saved lives, I said. Laura didn't argue. She also destabilized balances that kept far worse things contained. Before I could respond, one of the men returned. Nothing, he said. Laura exhaled slowly. That's disappointing, she looked at me. Where is it? She asked. I don't know, I said truthfully. She studied my face, then nodded. I believe you. Ethan stared at her. Then why are you still here? Laura glanced toward the window. Because believing you doesn't change the risk. She reached into her coat and pulled out her phone. I'm going to give you a choice, she said. She placed the phone on the table. One call, she continued. You can call your wife. My heart slammed. You can ask her where the drive is, she said, and this ends. And if I don't, I asked. She met my eyes. Then this house becomes very empty, she said. I swallowed hard. My hands shook as I picked up the phone. The number was already dialed. I held it to my ear. One ring, two. Then her voice, calm, familiar. David, she said. I closed my eyes. They're here, I whispered. I know, she replied. They want the drive, I said. I know. I opened my eyes. Laura watched closely. I don't have it, I said into the phone. I know, she replied. Then where is it? I asked. A pause, then. You already destroyed it, my breath caught. What? The flash drive was encrypted, she said. Time locked. If it wasn't opened within 72 hours, it wiped itself. Laura's expression shifted. Barely, but enough. You lied, she said sharply. My wife's voice continued. They came for insurance, she said. And you just confirmed it's gone. Laura grabbed the phone. You think that ends this, she demanded. No, my wife replied calmly. It changes who's exposed. A beat. I sent copies, she continued, to people who don't negotiate. Laura's jaw tightened. You're bluffing. I'm not, she said, and you know it. Silence stretched. Then my wife added, leave my family alone. The line went dead. Laura stared at the phone, then at me. Then she laughed. Once, low, you taught her well, she said quietly. She turned toward the door. We're done here, she said to her men. They hesitated, then followed. At the door, Laura stopped. She looked back at me. Your wife is very good at disappearing, she said, but even ghosts leave footprints. Then she left. The door closed. The house felt suddenly too big, too quiet. Ethan sat down heavily. That was her, he whispered. I nodded. She's still protecting us, he said. Yes, I replied, and now she's done. I looked around the room, the chairs, the walls, the life we'd built, and understood something clearly. The danger wasn't gone, but the power had shifted. For the first time, it wasn't ours to fear. After Laura left, the house didn't feel safer. It felt emptied, like a stage after the actors leave and the lights stay on too long. Ethan didn't speak for a while. Neither did I. We just sat there, listening to the old clock in the hallway mark seconds that felt heavier than before. Finally, he broke the silence. She's not coming back, he said. Not a question, a statement. No, I replied. She made sure of that. He rubbed his face with both hands. She planned this, he said, all of it. Yes, I said, and she planned it so we wouldn't have to. That didn't make it easier. If anything, it made it hurt more. The next few weeks passed strangely. No calls, no messages, no knocks at the door. The neighborhood returned to normal. Lights stayed on, dogs barked, people waved. But inside the house, everything had shifted. Ethan moved out a month later, not because we didn't want each other around, but because trauma rearranges priorities. He needed space to become himself again. I needed quiet to learn who I was without the woman I thought I knew. We hugged in the driveway the day he left. "You okay?" he asked. "I will be," I said. He hesitated. "Do you hate her?" I thought about it, really thought. "No," I said. "I hate that she didn't trust me enough to let me help." He nodded. "That sounds like her." I boxed up her things slowly, not all at once, a drawer at a time. A life doesn't end cleanly when it's built on secrets. In the back of the closet, I found something she'd hidden for me. A notebook, old, worn. Inside were dates, names, places, and between them notes written in a softer hand, personal, not operational, pages where she talked to herself, about fear, about guilt, about me. One entry stopped me cold. "David doesn't know. If he did, he'd try to protect me, and I can't let him die for my choices." I sat on the bed for a long time after that. Understanding came slowly. She didn't disappear because she didn't love us. She disappeared because loving us was the one thing she never stopped doing. 6 months later, a letter arrived. No return address. No stamp. Just my name written carefully. Inside was a single sheet of paper. No explanation. Just a sentence. "You were never difficult. You were dangerous to people who live on lies." I folded it and placed it back in the envelope. That was all I needed. I sold the house the following spring. Too many echoes. Too many memories that didn't belong to the life I was living now. I moved closer to Ethan. Not into his space, just close enough that we could have dinner on Sundays and not pretend everything was fine. Some things don't go back to normal. They go forward different. And that's okay. People still ask about my wife. I tell them she left. That's true, I don't tell them why. That's not my story to tell anymore. What I do tell them when they ask about Christmas that year is this. Sometimes the person who calls you difficult isn't criticizing you. They're warning you. Because difficult people ask questions. They notice patterns. They don't accept comfortable lies. And that makes them very inconvenient to people with something to hide. On the next Christmas Eve, Ethan and I sat quietly in his living room. No tree, no big dinner, just food, warmth, and honesty. He raised his glass. "To difficult people," he said. I smiled. "To truth," I replied. And for the first time in a long while, I felt something settle in my chest. Not peace, not happiness, but something stronger, clarity. I was never difficult at Christmas. I was just finally awake, and she knew it before I did.